Good morning, my yogic travelers. I'm mighty glad to be alive today, and I hope that you are too. I'm going to finish my week of working on Robert Bly's material and finishing it with a little commentary on Iron John, a fairy tale from Grimm's Brothers, sometimes also called Iron Hans. It's all about the uncovering of the wild man. Oh, this is the thing they didn't tell you about in childhood. This is the one they didn't want you to let out into the world. Even sometimes your friends don't want to see this. And so I'm not going to give a synopsis of the story, but the whole idea is there's a submerged energy, something deep within ourselves, ancient in our psyche. It's filled with spontaneity, love of nature, sexuality. And so, of course, those are things that are often repressed in modern society. And one of the things it teaches you is that in order to uncover this energy, you have to do what's called bucket work. Because in the story, the wild man is discovered by bucketing out a pond. And that bucket work isn't easy and doesn't happen quickly. And if you want to follow the metaphor, what are you bucketing? Well, it's water at a gross level, but of course at a psychological level, it's emotions. Stories like this are important because it takes you beyond the family. It widens your perspective, and it reminds you to stop denying what your family was like. You can't be cheerful about everything in your life. So it takes a lot of courage to do that, and when you start this kind of work, it's like you're going into a realm where time is both slower and time is both faster. You begin to look at all the things that didn't work in your life, and as I've mentioned before, it's like putting ashes in the garden. You recycle the manure to make the ground fertile. You learn to talk about your feelings. You get more dexterity in talking about your feelings. You don't make such a split between thinking and feeling. They both go together. It's as if all of our tutors and our teachers have stuck a pin in the side of our neck and cuts off our head from our heart. And that's one of the recoveries that you get when you start tapping into the wild energy. Now, another part of the story which is interesting is that if this energy is caged, has been locked up, set apart, imprisoned, shamed if it tries to show itself, then in order to let it out, in this particular story, the idea is you have to find the key underneath your mother's pillow, which means the dreams that your parents have for you, they want you to be a good boy or a good girl. They don't want you to be a wild woman or a wild man. So you have to steal the key. And then if you do make the effort to get your golden ball back, because what happens is you're playing with your golden ball, your 360-degree globe of radiance, and it accidentally falls into the cage where the wild man is being kept. Then you have to make a deal with the wild man to get your ball back because you love it so much. But of course, in all these tales, there's an initiatory wound that you often prick your finger on the lock because it's rusty and old. And so anytime you try to free the wild energy, there's going to be this initiatory wound as a reminder. So some kind of resolve is needed, some kind of fierceness in your life is needed. You just don't get handed this energy over because you ask. You got to work on it. And immediately in these stories, the idea is that if the wild man is freed from his cage, he takes the boy with him into the forest. Classic initiation tale. You have to go away from the family. And even though they may initially shock you by saying you'll never see your mother and father again, but don't worry, I have more treasure than you could possibly believe. So stick with me. And take the descent. go into the darker parts of the forest, and then maybe you'll learn to be life-giving and not just life-destroying.